Hello, everyone. Well, welcome to Ask a Casting Director. We will take a moment about halfway through and do some networking at the tables. I thank those of you that showed up on time. I'm an East Coaster, so I love that. I hope you're all staying safe, healthy, and happy. So I've been casting since 2000. And one of the first questions that came in was, how did you get started in casting? And it's really kind of a funny story. So in the year in 1999, the mayor I was working with, I was a liaison between the Providence Film Office and the State Film Office. Well, the mayor got arrested. And he did amazing things for the film industry, but poof, he was gone. And so there's usually a new regime, and that means they bring in their own people. And I was like, okay, it's time to go to California. So I got in my car from that end of the map, drove all the way to the other end of the map, landed in Los Angeles, but forgot to consider, because I'm a Screen Actors Guild member, and at that time you had to separately be AFTRA, and I was AFTRA and on BMI. Well, I forgot to take notice that there was a union strike. So being a staunch advocate at the time, I didn't want to work on anything. So I called an old friend of mine back east, and he goes, "How you doing?" And I go, "Oh, well, there's a strike. I can't work. Do you know anybody I can meet?" And he goes, "Yeah." So he gives me like this long list of people to meet. So I call everybody up, and it's like, "Hey, how are you? I arrived. We both know David Kleiler. Let's meet." And they met me, because you can't say no to David. Like, Dave, unfortunately, he passed away this year, but lovely man. So I got to meet all these fabulous people. And this one woman, Renita Whited, was a casting director, and she still is, and she's great. I haven't seen her in years. But anyways, we're talking. I'm an actress, and she goes, "Well, why don't you come work on the music video? You can wrangle the talent." And I said, "Great, I will. Call me anytime. I've got a pager. I have a cell phone." That night at midnight, she called me up, and she said, "Can you work tomorrow at 6 in the morning?" I said, "Yes." So there I was. My very first casting was as an extras talent wrangler for Kid Rock's Badass music video. And they loved how I wrangled them so much that they asked me back the next day. But then the next day, they said, "Well, why don't you be like white trash?" And I go, "All right." So I was white trash, and I'm in the music video. So that's my funny story of how I started casting. She asked me to come on other sets, and it was Bon Jovi. And then someone asked her to do a short film, and it already had a famous person involved. But I really appreciate what she did. She sent me on my direction, even though I didn't go to be a casting director. And she said, "Here, take this short, round out the other speaking roles." And so she gave me my first speaking role credit as casting director, with the famous person in it. So therefore that launched my career. But I did have to earn my stripes. I mean, I cast Nas's One Mic for her. There were 3 different sections of society that I went to the section. Like, I went to go get the Ballers down in Crenshaw, and here I am walking on the basketball court at night going, "Hey," they're looking at me like crazy lady. And I'm going, "Hey, who wants to be in Nas's next music video? Because I'm looking for basketball players." They all stopped playing. We went to the game house. We had Polaroids back then, so I'm taking Polaroids, putting their name on it. So fun times, fun times. Okay. Hi, Emily. Emily is asking, she's saying she's a screenwriter, and as a casting director, do you look directly at scripts? Let me answer that first, because she has a second one. I do read scripts before I cast. And if I do not resonate with the story, because I'm all about story, I don't cast it. There was one time that I cast something I didn't believe in. I told the director, because I started getting known as a rescue casting. It's weird, because they would call you a casting producer, and I just didn't think it was the right title, but whatever. So it fluctuates between casting director and casting producer. But there was one film that I did cast. I didn't want to cast it, and I didn't want my name on it. And I told her, I said, "I don't like the story. I'm not too thrilled, but I will do this to help you out." So yes, script is very, very important. And also as a screenwriter, and then as the actor reading the script, you really should see if each character has its own unique voice. If it's not well written, I don't care how talented that actor is, it's probably going to be bad. And that's kind of true for, your production value and your crew and whatnot. What can I do as a screenwriter when I'm writing a script to help make things smoother on a casting end? So sometimes I will say to people, who's your wish list? Who is like the person that you think is absolutely positively correct for that character? When I cast people their top three, and I'll tell you why. So as an actor, I have to give you direction in the audition, and you may not think you did well because I gave you a note, but I'm giving you a note to see if you can take direction. And I cannot tell you how many times people self-sabotage. Their face contorts or their body language does something because because they're self-judging, right? They're thinking something that isn't, and they've talked themselves out of a job because generally the director or the producer is sitting right next to me. Oh, I love that people are asking questions. So what you can do to wrap up Emily's question, what you can do is communicate clearly and simply. If I ask for your top choice, your wish list, send it. If I ask for your top three, send it. Not answering says a lot. And then sending 5 pages of notes says that you're going to be time consuming to work with. But that's okay. You have to find out for yourself what works for you. All right. Antonia. So she is a producer. She happens to be a dear friend of mine. She's CEO of That's So Funny Entertainment. What specifically do you look for in an actor when you are trying to fulfill a client's demand for a project? Well written sentence, that's a tongue twister. Okay, so people that I work with know that I just call it what it is, and I give them the essence of the character. And you know it when you see it. That actor reads and they're not reading. It's almost as if right then and there I could have filmed that. I know I'm filming it for an audition, but I could have filmed it for the film. And it's authenticity. I mean, you just are. And how you get to be it or are is you do your homework. You do your backstory. Who are you? Where'd you grow up? Where do you live? What color do you like? What's your favorite food? What were you doing the moment before? Where are you going the moment after? Do you have health issues? How old are you? You know, are you dyslexic? I mean, these are things you should ask yourself for each and every role, and then they just become, right? So let's just say Dorothy on The Wizard of Oz. So just, when you go in as Dorothy, you know that you come from Kansas and you have a little dog Toto, and tornadoes happen a lot in Kansas. And, obviously, you have an aunt and all this other good stuff. So when you're writing a script, you cannot think about a casting director because you have to think about the story. Why is someone saying what they're saying, and why are they there? And what part of this, I mean, I'm not a screenwriter, so I'm telling you from a casting director's standpoint. And oh, by the way, everything I share with you is from my lifetime of being in the business. I was on the set of The First Great Gatsby. I met Robert Redford. My dad was handling the antique cars. Both my parents were divorced and they dragged me everywhere. So I got to pretty much do focus puller, dolly grip, best boy, craft services. I remember sewing someone's dress before they went on set. So I'm giving it to you from pretty much all angles. But I think when you're writing a script, if you really focus on the script, what does that mean to me? Beginning, middle, and end. That you tell me a story that I want to turn the page. That it's formatted industry standard so it looks like you have a clue of what industry standard is, right? Because that means you are this further ahead than just a beginner who's trying to write. So what's the most challenging part of the job? People not listening. It is a communication industry. Give you an example. Let's go. I understand these are totally different times, and let's get into pre-COVID and COVID casting. I have cast during COVID. Okay, so we all have a cell phone. You can now videotape. You're going to angle it. You're going to make sure that you're in the middle of the frame. Make sure your lighting is good. There are, if I get up and I might knock everything over, but there's ring lights. I mean, you can get them on sale for $30, $50. It just makes everything brighter so I don't look, although I'm not having a very good hair day, the lighting looks good because I have my ring lights, which means I don't look like I'm a vampire, or I don't look like I'm in a dark, dingy room. And all that matters because when you're auditioning, you want to be looking at the person, and it's the eyes that say everything because you're going to talk to me with your eyes. So let's see. So right now it is self-tape. So self-tape is lighting. Look at your frame. Tape yourself in outfits. I can't even begin to tell you how something looks good on a hanger does not look good on me, or something looks good on me and it doesn't look good on the camera. So hanger, me, camera. Take a photo of yourself and really look at it and assess it. I mean, the general rule of thumb, no white, no red, no black, no stripes, no big logos, no big loud prints. But guess what? Throw that all away if that is right for the character. But remember, we want to see you. We want your eyes to tell us the story because your eyes are actually coming from all that stuff that you did, the backstory we talked about and whatnot. So you can still submit online through Actors Access, which is one of my favorite ones. There is Casting Frontier. There is Backstage.com. I use all three, but I really use my own, which is free. If you go to SusanJohnstonCasting.com and you sign up for free casting notices, when I have a casting, you're going to get that notice. Now, here's where we go back to what's the most challenging part of the job. That casting notice will give you the same exact information that everybody else has. And it tells you what it is and what I can tell you of what it is. And it also tells you what I need. Your job is to give me what I need. And if you do, it means you listen. If you don't, it means you may cost $10,000 a minute on set. Because if we have downtime because you're not listening, that's what it costs. So that's your first audition is, are you responding in the manner that was asked? So for example, I had a gamer one. I'm like, okay, if you're in a game, if you did a voiceover for a game, if you're a gamer and you are an influencer, please respond, show me how, send me a link, send me a screenshot of your numbers, whatever. And people would respond that weren't gamers. Well, consider me, I like games. Well, that wasn't part of the criteria. And what it says is they're not respecting my time. They're not respecting the process. Now, you'll ask me, do you have a blacklist? In the beginning, I started a blacklist. It was so long. I said, forget it. And then, it's like, who has meltdowns, who's high maintenance, whose manager and agent play bad cop, good cop. I got to the point where like, okay, agents legally can negotiate your deal, managers can't. So I say to the manager, look, this is the deal. You don't like it, go back to the agent. The agent can come back to me, but this is the deal. So this is where we're going to come back to. So you guys can go spend, or ladies, you can spend all the time you want. But this is what production has. So sounds like you cast a character more than someone who has brown hair. Oh, yes. I'm so glad you asked me that. So casting is selection, right? And it's specifics. So if you're in a Hasidic Jewish hospital and only Hasidic Jewish people are there, I really look for Hasidic Jewish people. I actually was casting Native American Indians on Mount Shasta, 10,000 feet in the sky. And I told the director, you're not paying me more, but I'm going to go find a Native American Indian for this role. Well, I tried. 7 tribes. They actually so loved that I was trying to get a Native American Indian. And I will tell you that some people thought they were. I'm like, you're not Native American. Like, the Indians are telling me you're not Native American. But anyways, so I mean, the Karuk tribe, the Lakota tribe, and I have to tell you this story because it's hilarious. So there were hot springs, and it was nighttime. So I got naked and I got in the hot springs. I'm there all by myself, me in the sky, and all of a sudden I hear, Susan, Susan Johnston. I just want to tell you that's really strange. And I went, yes. And she said, I'm Spotted Feather. I'd like to talk to you. And I went, okay. So I get out. Here I am on a Chase Lounger in the dark, under the sky with Spotted Feather. And she wanted to thank me because word had gotten around on the mountain that I was really looking for a Native American Indian. The challenge is I found a half breed. I don't know what his other half was, but, I asked the tribes, is he really, have, enough where we can say he's Native American? They said yes. He was the best actor of the bunch, and he really wasn't that good. So I was so excited that I felt I did the right thing. I did the right thing for culture. I didn't do the right thing for the role, but I can live with that for that film. So I once fought for a black man to be a lawyer and a British lawyer, and there was this beautiful, clearly British looking man. If you ever had to just typecast, who knows if he was British, but he clearly looked British. And everybody's looking at me like I'm nuts. And I went, this black man trained at the Royal Shakespeare Theatre. He has performed in the West End of London. He is a British actor and he can play a lawyer. And he got the role. So anyways, so what are some of your pet peeves when I'm reviewing submissions? Okay, calling the production company, because we list the production company to show they're legit. That's going behind my back. Several people have done that. One person got the role, and I will never hire her. And I have not hired her, and I could have hired her. It's bad business acumen. Remember, it's show business, right? You all want to be show, but you better know the business. That's why I've lasted so long. I'm a good businesswoman. I know when to say no, and I honor my deliverables, and and I constantly grow as a human being. I'm not there yet, but I guess that's the journey of life. You got to keep growing. So I'll give you an example. If I ask you to send me a photo and a link to your website or a photo in your resume, please make sure that when you put that photo in the email, it's not this big. I've literally opened up an email and I can see the top of your hair. Like I can see from here. And trust me, it doesn't look that pretty. And then I have to scroll down and then your eye is this big. It's not how you want to be seen. So don't go behind my back. Honor your word. Learn what business is. Possibly what your parents said. Do what you're told, but that's not what I mean. Just follow the directions because we're looking to see if you follow directions. If the AD says go back to one and you don't go back to one, we can't start rolling again. That's how simple directions are. Okay, let's see. This is fun. I'm so glad you're asking questions. How is extras casting handled and how is voiceover casting handled? Very different. I love this. I'm really proud of this. I cast all the voices for Atlanta, Georgia's Coca-Cola World, the first one. I heard they made a new one 3 years ago. I mean, I had to cast the hypothalamus, like all your taste buds. So when you went into Atlanta, Georgia, there they were. So I'm listening, right? So I'll have you do this. The next time you put an animation on, right? Close your eyes. And I want you to listen. I want the writers to listen. I want the actors to listen, and then the directors and producers should too. But I want you to listen. Each of those voices should really, really be different. And sometimes they're not. I know that you don't know this, but I grew up in a musical family. I was in a band for 15 years, and I had 3 songs go national. So I've written and recorded songs. I've had to do piano lessons and stuff like that. So yes, it's the notes, it's the silence or the sound in between the notes. But let's just go, G, D, E on a guitar, right? G, D, E. So G, D, and E should sound very different, but E flat is just slightly different. E sharp is just slightly different. If you have an animation on and you have 4 different characters, they really shouldn't be sharps and flats of anybody. That means they've used a voice, the same actor to save time, but that person really only did it a smidge and they really should be totally different. So anyways, I love voiceover casting. Casting, you really shouldn't send a photo. They will judge you. They will judge you. They will judge you if you have a religious thing here. You just have to be careful. You don't want to do anything that triggers in voiceover that triggers somebody to have an association with it. So generally, you just send an MP3, and be honest with yourself. I mean, listen to it, right? Like, have someone else listen to it. Someone once told me, yeah, you really don't want to put that out. And I went, okay, thanks. Love it. So extras casting, don't want to do it anymore, but I loved doing it when I did it. So extras casting, unfortunately, I didn't treat you that way, but it's like herds of cattle. There's probably, because it's just like bodies, 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 bodies. Make them in their 30s and 40s, or make them whatever. Make them all this, that, they'll get specific, like you're going to a restaurant, no, or let's make a cup of coffee. I want my coffee with 2 sugars and soy milk. That's casting, right? So extras is about filling in the scene. But I want to let you know that if you are an extra, be an actor. So that means choose who you are, why you're there. You could just, they could just say you're an extra walking down the street. Well, why are you walking down the street? Are you going to work? Are you going to go pick up your kid from school? Why do you live there? Or did you fly in? Are you a tourist? You're thinking that, it's going to show, and they're going to bump you up. I mean, I've gotten over 60 people their SAG card because I've bumped them up on set because all of a sudden they wanted someone under 5. Or honestly, sometimes SAG talent do not show up on set. They're like, I changed my mind, or I got a better deal. Very bad business acumen, but it helps those extras that are there that understand show business. We can bump you up. And I have to tell you, as a casting director, I used to go on set with extras just because I loved meeting them. I would have raffles for them. I would make sure they get fed. I just enjoyed it. I've gotten bumped up on 6 sets. I don't even remember the name of the movie. So the director comes in, he goes, I need someone that smokes. There's an entire room of extras. The director is asking for someone who smokes. So I said, I'll smoke. He goes, all right, find a jacket because you have too much purple on. I went, okay. So I had a purple dress on with purple leggings and purple boots because it was comfortable and it was cute. And so somebody let me borrow this tan jacket, and here I am opening the movie. Now, mind you, when I was smoking that cigarette, because I can be a social smoker, when I was smoking that cigarette, I was thinking about who was in the hospital. I'm like, gosh, I got to get in there, but I don't know what to say. So in my head, I'm already having a conversation about who I'm meeting in my head. And I have to tell you, it looked really good on camera because I wasn't just an extra. I was acting. So always act, always have business acumen. So hopefully I answered that. All right. Oh, how do you sign up to be an extra for shows filming in your area? Are there special sites, emails, lists for that? I'd love you to just be an extra once or twice, to be an observer and listen and see how things operate, and then move on from that. Unfortunately, people stay as an extra, right? Because it's some money, it's being on a set, but it's kind of like being a short film director. I have a dear friend who's made 48 short films, and I'm like, when are you going to make the feature? Like, when are you going to allow yourself to graduate up? So they're the same places. Actors Access, which is a division of Breakdown Services. There's Casting Frontier. There's Backstage.com. Those are the reputable ones. I mean, I'd really be careful. If you find one and you want to ask me, you can email me. You've all gotten my email, but honestly, you have to be careful. Not everybody's, there's some snakes out there, and they look pretty, and you don't know they're snakes. So just the reputable ones that I know of right now are Backstage, Casting Frontier, and Actors Access. Definitely not Craigslist. Okay, so what does my day-to-day routine look like? I don't have a day-to-day routine. I had to get into literally a phone call can change my day. I got a phone call that said I was driving. So I got a phone call, I was driving, and I'm literal. So the producer said, "Where are you?" And I looked wherever I was, and I don't know, the 405 North at such and such an exit. And Corey was the name of the director. And he said, "Well, Corey wanted me to tell you that the actress hasn't shown up. She had an important role. It was a speaking role, but it was only a 1-day role, and she wouldn't do it." Now, and I said, "Where are you?" And so he told me where his location was. So what I had to do was in my brain I needed a female. I needed her to be the mom of the son. So I knew what they sort of had to look like, sort of, right? Because remember, it's got to go to the storyline. If it's a waspy family, I can't have it mixed. If it's, we went to that subject before. And so I literally got on the phone and called people in the order of professionalism, matching the type, and who was closest, because I want you to arrive there safely, right? And obviously, if you're downtown LA, you weren't going to get to where they were, which was close to Calabasas. So another thing I want to tell you is pick up the phone. Even if you think it's a telemarketer, you just go, "Hi." And then I used to say, "Hi, this is Susan." So people didn't go, "Hi, is Susan there?" It just saved a whole step. The other thing I want to tell you is, say you get an audition and you go and you decide you don't want the role. Don't tell them you don't want the role. Just say, "Oh, thank you so much. I'm sorry, but I've been booked in between the audition and now." Now, you're not lying, because in your mind, you booked yourself out that day to not work on that set. Does that make sense? Let me give you another story. Last minute. Okay. Two stories. So another director, Tom Tangent. Tom Tangent calls me up. I was in, where was I? I was in Bel Air. He was in like Glendale, Eagle Rock. He was in Eagle Rock. And he said, "Susan, what are you doing?" And I said, "I'm laying down in my pajamas," because it was nighttime. And he goes, "We need someone for the hot tub scene." And I said, "Where are you?" And so he tells me Eagle Rock. So my brain's going again. Now it's like 11 o'clock at night. Well, guess what? Whoever went down there, they got a speaking role, they got a credit, and they were in a film in a hot tub with someone famous. They didn't have to do anything. They just had to be in the hot tub. They said something like, "Fantastic," whatever. So I don't have a day-to-day routine. I answer the phone, and that's about it. So can students get an intern position with me? Very, very interesting. So how to get an intern position with me. I don't necessarily have interns, but what I want to recommend to you is when you see I have a casting, ask if I need a reader. Because if I need a reader, the reader will be sitting next to me and will be reading with the talent. And often, more times than not, the director or producer ends up asking the reader to read for the role if they're right for it. And that's how you can help me. If it's when I was doing extra work, I could definitely use an intern. You'd have to make lots of information. I guess when I'm doing a casting, readers, an audition is for readers, and a casting would be, you can say, "Hey, would you like me to help out on this project?" But my same answer to you, that it is for extra work and directing shorts, is do 1 or 2 and then allow yourself to get bumped up. How do producers keep track of who has all these speaking roles and credits? So most people use imdb.com. It stands for Internet Movie Database. 80% right, maybe 90% right sometimes. And that's what we do. We go to IMDb, we search a name, and as a matter of fact, if you look in the speaker's bio, there's a link there to my IMDb. So it says, needing a reader. I don't need a reader now, thank you, but this is from a writer. What I recommend, and that's why I probably should have prefaced this before, when we were networking before, and thank you for trying, my goal is that like you meet each other and, say three of you are actors and one's a writer and one's a producer. Well, the writer says, hey, let's do a script reading. Let's do a Zoom script reading, or let's do a FaceTime, script reading. I'll send you all the script, pick a role. So now that actor during COVID has had time to, practice, what they love doing. And then the writer can hear how it's sounding, where the laughs are, where they aren't, because the producer's there as well, or the director. And that producer or director, should be able to play as well, right? Because if anything, COVID is allowing us to, after we've cleaned our closet, we have to clean our contacts, only work with people that it's a win-win. We have to, raise our own bar, clean up your resume, make sure you have a picture that looks like you right now. So those are some things. All right. Someone asked, what do you most like about your job? So my job, I would say, I like the perks. So what is a perk to me? A perk to me is you're going to go to a location that's not open to everyone. It's like the private tour. You're going to do things and experience things that you won't really ever be able to duplicate again. I needed a three-legged dog one time for a show. They're like, can you get a three-legged dog? I said, sure. I had no idea how I was going to get a three-legged dog. So I would call people up that had dogs, and I'd go, where do you walk your dog? You've seen a three-legged dog? And guess what? Someone did. So I went to that dog park, and I just sat and sat and sat, and then the three-legged dog came by, and he got hired. But I want you to know, prior to that, I had a pig, a pet pig. Somebody down my street had a pet pig. He was walking his pig one day. So I said, oh my gosh, someday I want to cast your pig. So when this TV show wanted the three-legged dog, I said, okay, but I want you to hire the pig. So I got a picture. His name was Harley. I got a picture of Harley. Oh, by the way, in TV shows, and I'm sure they do this in films too, but I don't always go in that room because they're making choices. But they literally have like a whiteboard and they take people up, like the role of Mary. There's either choices or there's the person they hired. And so this way, let's say Mary was chosen. Then when they're finding her husband, they'll go, oh, they look like a match, because maybe they're not supposed to look like a match for this role, and maybe they are, whatever that match means. So anyways, I put Harley up there. And they would laugh and they go, we're not hiring the pig. And I go, I like the pig. The pig stays until we get the dog. So I got the dog. Yeah, I know. I love it. See, those are the fun things about my job. Networking tips, especially things to spark conversation. I'm going to go in a different direction with this because it goes to my pet peeve. Okay. And guess what? A friend of mine said I do this. She'll ask me, how am I? And I'll talk about work. And I'll say, oh my gosh, I'm going to be doing this Ask a Casting Director thing. So when you network, if someone says, hi, how are you? Tell them how you are. Don't tell them what you've done. Tell them how you are. I'm doing really great. It's been kind of a tough year, but I decided to take rollerblading lessons. Not, I got an audition, got a call back, just sent out postcards for my acting. That one maybe you could do, but I think you get the point on that. I know people say this time and time again, but if you really and truly are interested in people, they'll love you. If I'm interested in someone, I'm curious. You know, so, hey, how are you? Oh, good. Wow. So you learned rollerblading. That's really cool. Well, I used to rollerblade, and see how one thing goes after another. And then you can just go, I did a lot of cooking during, these last 9 months. I'm not so sure I'm going to be cooking anymore. Did you do a lot of cooking? I think I'm going to dine out more. So it's just sort of ask how they are. So, and it will eventually lead to what do you do? And then here's the other thing. If you think there's like, and I don't mean this, okay, an experience level, right? So if I'm a casting director and you're an actor and we're meeting for the first time, please don't, in the beginning, ask me to hand me your headshot or, you know, have a conversation with me. But listen to what I say. If I'm the casting director and I say, hey, do you have any questions for me? Or, hey, send me your photo. Just go to my website and and find my email or contact me. If the person in the so-called power position of hiring you or referring you engages with you to do something, that is the absolute positive time to pounce on it, to do it. Don't show up on their doorstep at midnight. I had someone do that. He actually called me first and he got my number from my friend. And I thought he was joking because he didn't know where I live. Someone's laughing. I love the little emojis. And someone's laughing. And his name was Jeff and he was on Saturday Night Live. And I said, Jeff, come in. I'm going to make you a cup of coffee. Well, the nice thing is that my front door led right to the back door. And it's California. So I led Jeff to the back door. He sits in the cute little love seat. I said, I'll be right back. He's drunk and never been to my house before. I didn't know he knew where I lived. So I get him coffee and we talk. And then he wanted to show me he lost weight. And, I waited till he wasn't drunk anymore because, what else are you going to do? You got to be respectful. He's on a major show. And, he wasn't being a creep. He was just drunk. And I think most of us have been drunk at one time in our life. And, so when I found out my best friend told him, I called him up the next day and I go, why did you tell him where I lived? He goes, well, I didn't know he was going to call you at midnight, so now I don't tell anyone where I live. But don't show up at my door. What are some of the most exciting projects I've worked on? I think Dreams Awake, which was the one on Mount Shasta, was the most exciting project because it was the one I didn't expect. I got called out of the blue. I didn't really want it. I had nothing on my calendar. My friend David again, from Boston, the one who passed away this year, I called him up. I go, I don't want to go. He goes, do you have anything on your calendar? I said, no. He said, go. And it was one of the most wonderful experiences of my life because every single moment was a new, unique experience. Mountains, Native American Indians, a true story, famous people. Actually, this was really fun. One of the women, because we cast up there, I always like to cast locals if I can. Not every production will allow you to do that. We actually cast the waitress, and she was in Singing in the Rain. And she actually died after the movie, but we're excited that she got to be in a film before she died. So I gave you those networking tips. I told you about the most exciting project. So, well, this is Holly. She said she's an adventure curator. I'd like to know more about that. So if you want to email me later, that'd be fun. So my favorite technology advancements, VR, AR, mocap. I love mocap. I don't think the technologies have changed my casting at all. I think artificial intelligence along with AR, VR, animation, they're going to take jobs away because these will now be computer generated talent. And of course, I prefer real talent, right? I would prefer a real voice actor than I would a digitized, although I love technology, I would prefer the real person. How do I stay organized? So staying organized, Excel sheets, Word docs, and then when I have a video file, I generally like it in MP4, so it's compressed. It doesn't take up that much room to download, upload, and play. I mean, I don't need it high definition. And then I name it what it is. And if I don't spell it right, I'm in trouble because I can't find you. So that's why this segues to if I'm asking you to email me your headshot and your resume, your signature should, to make my life easy and anyone else's, in casting. I don't want you to give your phone number and website to everybody that you don't want to, but you would have your name, your phone number, your email, and your website in any order. But then I can just copy and paste that and put it in my Google Doc, right? Now I'm not going through a whole sheet and figuring it out. But my name's relatively simple to remember, but I would name the file Susan Johnston. That's it. And then let's say I actually filmed a Matthew McConaughey music video. And so I would put Matthew's music video, and then all those digital files would go in there because I have cast different projects at a time. Oh my gosh, my other favorite project was Frog, Frawg. It was a 7-Eleven commercial, and I had to cast 80 special talent. I interviewed 800 people. And I told them all they had 15 seconds, and people got mad at me. Like, they literally came in the audition and said, "Why do we only have 15 seconds?" I said, "That's how long the spot is." And of course, when they left, I wrote A for attitude. Do I want to bring someone on a set that has attitude? I met like a 70-year-old woman that wore a gold lame suit that did gymnastics. I actually went to the man's home. He was, he was like a legendary rope. When you do the rope tricks? I mean, that was just beautiful. All these, there was like, I think it's called crimping or crumping. Like there were these dance moves. So that was pretty amazing. Listen, if you've got it down in 15 seconds, if you have a special skill, I mean, if you can put your feet behind your head, doesn't take longer than 15 seconds, and then maybe you roll to the side and you roll back up. That's awesome. And if you do that in 15 seconds and that's what the spot is, and that's what the casting notice says, you're probably going to get the job. That was a big paying job. All right, so now we're going to move to the chat. Haha, I haven't walked my mom's former pig or my friend's pig, but I do walk, hike, hula hoop, rollerblade, bike ride with my cat. Those are all great skills. I'm so glad you mentioned that. Okay, so if you are a CPA on the side, if you are a caretaker on the side, if you have a bachelor's in XYZ, put it in the special skills, because now more than ever, people are hiring you for your experience in other areas, and they also like that it rounds you out as an actor. I cast a couple of Stan Lee's producer panels. While I was casting producers or writers, and please share, people recommended it. I want to tell you my worst casting, just because it came to me. So AT&T hired me to cast a host. I'm going to tell you the breakdown. Young 20s, hip, fun, fashionable, not too fashionable, pays $2,000 an episode. It was a series. I had 400 people come in. 85% of them looked like they just left a yoga class. I had high agencies send people in. Those people didn't know how to leave the room. So know how to leave the room. And then one woman was sitting blocking fire code. So I came out of the room. Now, mind you, I'm probably thinking, I don't have a smile on my face. I'm thinking, it doesn't mean I'm mad. I'm just thinking. And I'm like, oh, I said, can you please move? That's fire hazard. And she got crappy with me. And one, she doesn't know I have firefighters in my family. Two, she doesn't know I lost 100 people in a fire. My band was supposed to play the station fire, and the Thursday night before it went up in flames from the Whitesnake concert. So you bet the Italian East Coast person in me wanted to pick her up and throw her out the door. Thank you. Someone went, oh, I did. I wanted to throw her out the door. Thank God I didn't, because the old East Coast Italian definitely could have. But you can be sure she didn't get hired. So I understand it can be hot. It can be uncomfortable. You could have stuff going on. You got to leave it at the door. All right. So great on the skills. Thanks for helping me remind that. Oh, know how to leave the room. It means how to get out of the, okay. Must be my Italian. All right. Know how to get out. When I was acting, I had a director say, okay, well, I need to see your boobs. Well, he didn't need to see my boobs. And if he did need to see my boobs, he would have needed to notify me, my agent, and it would have been approved and all that good stuff. And I could have been allowed to bring someone in. So know how to get out. Like, is there a window? You may have to jump out of a window. I had to leave a window one time. Okay. So just know how to get out. If you're hosting these experiences and you've got a couple and they're the couple from hell, tell them you're going to the bathroom and go out the back door and just call them from your cell and say, oh my gosh, I got sick, because you're an actress and you're going to get out. You're going to get out of a bad situation. That's what I mean about know how to get out. That's funny. If you're auditioning and the one casting seems really busy and tells you a direction that you don't understand, okay, you have to be comfortable. Should you ask for clarification on that direction? I would just go with it. If it's 10,000 a minute on set, what's his name? Oh my God, what's his name? Titanic. The director of Titanic, I worked with him. So I was the Duke's mistress. It was the one with Arnold Schwarzenegger in it, and the thing blew up. Okay, so my friend was playing a security guard, and James Cameron, and James asked him to do something. Do you think if he asked for clarity, yeah, he wouldn't have been able to continue acting on that set. Well, thank you so much for hanging out and trying it. So, Emily, thank you for your technology expertise, table or speed networking. So, you have my email. I thank you so much and stay safe, everyone. Okay, bye.